There is no HIV man. There is no HIV man. There is no HIV man. Won't you take my hand? Hi everybody, I'm back. I guess today I'm on a road trip of sorts. I am in Alabama at the state line at the rest area. You know, I probably could drive from Atlanta to Montgomery blindfolded. I make this trip so often. But I do love being out on the road. Certain places I'll stop perhaps and have something to eat and feel like I'm on a road trip. I still may not get to talk to people, but at least I'm out there giving it my best. Just behind me is the Georgia state line, and it had me reflecting on the time when I was an outdoor therapeutic counselor. I was in depression. I had moved back to Alabama and realized that I needed to work. So, based on my experience, I was able to be hired responding to an ad in the paper for an outdoor therapeutic counselor in Warm Springs, Georgia. Of course, you know that I was a special education for behavior disorders teacher. Most of my students were black men who are routed often into those type programs. Rather than go to juvenile, the white students tend to get sent to places like where I work, outdoor therapeutic camp, where they gain a lot of experiences out in nature and then develop some of their emotional issues can perhaps be better healed. I did that for 2 months. And I'm not kind of an outdoor type of person, so I was facing a lot of fears by submitting myself to living outdoors. I was Chief Damien. And it was a great 2-month experience for me. But anyway, it is at that exit where I just left, driving up into the mountains of Warm Springs, Georgia. And the shifts were like where you would work 4 days at a time, and then you'd have 2 or 3 days off. So it was a totally new experience. I often left there and went on to Atlanta because I was missing Atlanta even back then. Of course, not knowing then what I know now. But anyway, here I am at the Alabama state line, and of course, I love driving and listening to Damian Laster playlist, the playlist there. And today, several interesting presentations came up. You know, I've been doing this for a number of years now, and so one of the interviews that I was listening to with Truther Talk Radio came on. It's not the reprieve that I redid and placed out there. It's a full interview that has the beginning and concluding segments by the interviewers, April Smart and Verstine Henry of Truther Talk Radio. If they ever get to see this, I want to say thank you all so much. Verstine was a Facebook friend. She's a very curious person, like all goddesses are. And she contacted me because she had already done a little research about bogus HIV. She knows of Gary Null and several other prominent people in the HIV descent community. But anyway, she had me on the show because I'm one who had lived through it. And it was a great interview. You know, I've had several interviews and I go into those without talking points. I try to speak off the cuff, and so I can, again, demonstrate an open heart and throat chakra. But anyway, I recall that presentation because, when you do this kind of work, you don't want to offend anybody, even people who you feel might be the blame for some of the things going on. But you also don't want to involve your family members who might not be at the level of awareness. So you have to be very careful about what you say. And so in this interview, what had happened earlier that day, I believe it was a situation that really moved me in relation to the relationship I had with my father. Somebody stopped by the house or something, he ended up talking to this guy that I had never met before, and they seemed to have almost like a father-son relationship, something that I felt I had been missing. You know, my family, even though I loved them, they were not around when I was going through this thing. You know, the stigma of receiving that diagnosis, and based on people's level of awareness, it really can destroy a family. So I went through a lot of that alone. And to see my father out there, you know, who loves Tiger Woods, he's playing golf all the time, talking to some guy that I don't even know, like a son, it bothered me. And I decided to tell that story to Verstine and them. And that's how we began that radio interview. But I went on to do, I believe, a great job of expressing what I had gone through and what I had learned through the HIV debacle and crisis. So I thank them and everyone who interviewed me, Pure Flow Radio, and Katie Owadu, and you know, they are courageous people. You know, it's one thing to know something, but it's another to do something about it. And one thing I liked about Brandon on Pure Flow Radio, him and Sparkle Plenty, they are very courageous people. Brandon is a rapper, but his rap is conscious. And so I love people like that who have something to say and who are not afraid to voice it.